Good evening. Welcome to our March 26th, 2026 City Council meeting, closed session at 5 p.m. May I have a roll call?
Councilmember Clark?
Here.
Councilmember Orbach?
Here.
Councilmember Westman?
Here.
Vice Mayor Jensen?
Here.
Mayor Morgan?
Here. We'll go out to public comment, but I don't see anybody, so we'll be back here at 6 o'clock. See you then. Good evening. Welcome to this evening's regularly scheduled Capitola City Council meeting, March 26th of 2026. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Clark?
Here.
Councilmember Orbach?
Here.
Councilmember Westman?
Here.
Vice Mayor Jensen?
Here.
Mayor Morgan?
Here. Would you all please rise and join for the Pledge of Allegiance? Any additions or deletions this evening?
Staff has no changes to the agenda this evening.
Thank you. That'll take us to presentations. Tonight we are recognizing our participants of Discover Capitola. Are you talking first?
Yeah, first I want to welcome everyone who's a Discover Capitola participant. I see a few in the audience. Thank them all for coming, and we'll invite you up here to the front of the room here in a moment. This year, we kind of rebooted the Discover Capitola, the Citizens Academy that we do every 2 years. I really want to congratulate Chloe. She put together a terrific work plan and itinerary for everything. We got great presentations from some of our outside presenters, Central Fire, the library, as well as our internal staff did a really good job, I thought, sharing sort of the story of the city. So we had record participation. We had over 30 participants. I think in the past, our highest number was maybe 7. So it was really great to see the level of interest and participation in this year's Academy. In addition, we are taking this moment to sort of recognize and acknowledge everyone who participated. It's something I think we need to be doing more of for our committees and board members and volunteers. And so it's something moving forward we're going to be doing more of. So with that, if you want to welcome them up to the front of the room.
I'm sure not everybody is here, but thank you so much for attending the Discover Capitola and this evening. I'd love for those in attendance to join me on the stage for some pins and a photo. Great. Thanks again, everybody. We'll move on to our report on closed session.
Thank you. Prior to this meeting, the council met in closed session on 2 items that are listed under small Roman numeral 1 and 2 on the agenda. There was no reportable action.
Thank you. Additional materials.
Staff received additional materials and staff memorandums for a closed session item 8E, 9F, 9A, 9B, and 9D. There was 1 email for a closed session item, 2 emails for 8E, 1 staff memorandum, and 1 email for 8F, and 3 emails for 9A, 1 for 9B, and 1 staff memorandum for 9D.
Great, thank you. And that'll bring us to oral communications by members of the public. I just want to say ahead of time, I think there was some online confusion. We are not discussing the Bay Hill corridor this evening. If you'd wish to speak on that item, you are more than welcome to. You'll have 3 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Morgan and council members. I'm Heidi Kellison. I am a resident of Capitola. I'm addressing item 8E regarding the Capitola Mall on the consent calendar. On the chance you weren't able to get through the entirety of your 400-plus page packet, I'll briefly summarize what is now my 3rd written request, that Councilmember Orbach abstain from participating in this matter. Tonight, I'm asking that the matter be pulled from the consent calendar and that she be given the opportunity to recuse. It is never too late to do the right thing. This stems from her spouse's formal complaint to the State Department of Housing and Community Development on this same matter. While it may not rise to a financial conflict of interest under state law, the combination of a close family relationship and a state complaint raises reasonable questions about impartiality and fairness. When those questions are not addressed on the record, it can undermine public confidence in the council's decision-making. I encourage you to review my letter, which includes direct guidance from the Fair Political Practices Commission ethics training that all council members are required to complete. I hope you will find it useful and consider agendizing best practices for handling situations like this, particularly when they fall outside the narrow definition of a financial conflict. Trust in local government has never been more important. This is an opportunity to reinforce it. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, welcome.
Hi, my name is Goran Klapic. I'm former security guard of Zelda's on the beach. I worked the front door with my black brother George for a while all summer. I want to emphasize something. Maybe I received some heat for that in discussing that there was some illegal drug distribution going on during that time that I witnessed. I talked to Andrew Daly. He was a great man. Andrew Daly did something great during my well-being here in Capitola. He arrested Bill. Bill was a black guy who was selling cocaine legally, of course, in the city of Capitola. As I said before, Sarah Ryan begged me actually not to talk about things like that, but I think I'm protected by the Constitution of the United States of America. I can say whatever I want. I'm a citizen. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Bob Morgan, and I'm here to just say a few words about the proposed, or with the Tesla dealership going in at the Kings Plaza. I live a couple of blocks away off of Thompson, and I was unable to come to the public meeting from the Planning Commission, so I'm here tonight. I have some concerns, first of all, about the governance regarding the process to approve the permit. I don't feel that it was really a lot of outreach done by the community development people to residents in the area. There was minimum requirements met, but you know, the Tesla dealership will be a regional hub for service as well as sales, and it will have an impact on what has traditionally been a very small local center for shoppers who live in the area. So I do think it's going to impact the plaza significantly, and I don't feel we really had enough opportunity to express sentiment about Tesla moving in. Secondly, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to approve the permit and the acceptance of the dealership. 3 of the council members spoke very avidly about owning Teslas. And they spoke about having to go to Seaside, or actually Sand City, to get those Teslas repaired. So I'm not certain that qualifies as an ethics issue, but I thought that was unusual that they all voted to approve it. Thirdly, and perhaps most importantly, I'm concerned about risk factors with test drives in what can be a very crowded parking lot. There's been no test drive information that I've seen in any of the packets that I've looked through. I looked through design, development, design, and review closely, and the only reference I've seen to test drives was signage to talk about where test drives will be done. But I'm concerned about new drivers of EVs, particularly Teslas, which are loaded with technology, getting into an EV in the parking lot. There's going to be 5 spaces in front of the Rite Aid, the Tesla dealership. I'm concerned about new drivers getting into Teslas and leaving that parking lot. And I'm concerned about them entering back into the parking lot because the parking lot can be very crowded. So I'd propose that any test drives begin in the rear of the establishment where the service area will be. That's a main concern about safety. I'm also concerned about the service aspect of it. It will be a large service entity. There'll be 14 bays to repair cars. I think noise mitigation is going to be a significant problem. And I know that there will be independent sound engineering, which will take place to measure decibels. But as far as the repair work, which is going to be done, tires will be replaced. There will be rebalancing. There'll be batteries replaced. There'll be realignments for tires. So there's pneumatic drills. And the doors to the service area are stipulated in the conditions of permit to be closed unless cars are entering and exiting the service area. I suspect those doors will be opening and closing quite a bit. And so I think that that's going to be an issue for residents in the area. They live right behind the dealership. And then thirdly, I'm concerned about the aesthetics of the project. There is a vacant lot now on 30th Avenue, which is designated as a car lot. And I don't know what that means. I wonder if it could be fencing put there to, distinguish it from the street. I'm also concerned about the facade. Gina Paulina did a very nice PowerPoint presentation, but the mock-up for the Tesla signage I thought was very severe and unattractive. And RRM Design Group did make some strong and I think really important recommendations about that facade and the front of the building, which I hope are heated. And I'll check in with the planning department too when I get an opportunity. I can't make Thursday night meetings for them, but I plan to write. Thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public wish to speak? Welcome.
Good evening, esteemed members of the council. My name is Joe McGinty, and I'm with youth liaison through United Way, working with Councilmember Orbach and on a project to help increase ridership for the metro buses for the proposition in November. I am currently gathering data to present to the metro on what our next step should be to make sure youth are served adequately in Santa Cruz County. And I think it's extremely important that to keep access to the metro free for youth because it provides transportation to activities that they otherwise wouldn't be able to participate in without added economic burden, purchasing a bus pass. And as we all know, it's very expensive to live in the county, especially with the rising gas prices. And I think a free metro is a vital way for young people who don't have a license to get their job and to get to their job and get to school. I, for one, have been using it since I was a freshman and I'm now a senior. And I think it's helped me to be really independent. And if I didn't have free access, I don't think I would have been able to get, I think I would have had more absences and wouldn't have been able to learn as thoroughly. So I encourage everyone to support the proposition to extend free metro ridership for students as well as the elderly and disabled in Santa Cruz County. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Anybody else wish to speak this evening? All right, that'll be the close of our oral communications. We'll move to item 7. We'll go to staff for comments.
I think Katie has one update for us this evening.
Great, welcome, Director.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to bring you up to date on the 41st Avenue corridor study. As you know, we expanded it to include Claire's. We had a successful public outreach meeting that was virtual, and we're doing a follow-up survey that we're going to post tomorrow on our webpage. So it's really focused on Claire Street and kind of the future placemaking along the corridor. So it'll be posted tomorrow. I'll be getting the word out, but just wanted to let you know. Thank you.
Just curious, how long will the survey be up for?
I believe for 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
The plan.
Great.
Okay?
All right. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Staff comments? No? Okay, we'll go to council. Councilmember Clark?
Thank you. I'd like to report out on the upcoming Art and Cultural Commission meeting, April 14th at 6:30 here in the chambers. The commission will be reviewing the Monterey Art Railing project and the Richmond Mansion Mosaic Art project. And we would just like to invite everybody to come and learn more about it and comment on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, for your comments today. You did a great job. Speaking on the Metro campaign, there's going to be a campaign kickoff event to support the Friends of the Santa Cruz Metro tomorrow at noon at the new River Road development on 444 Front Street in Santa Cruz. I invite you all to join us to support this campaign to save Metro and preserve high-quality, accessible transit for Santa Cruz County residents. Without this ballot measure, Metro may have to decrease service by 40%, lay off 100 employees, and terminate its youth cruise-free program. Please consider volunteering your time, donating your money, or simply signing one of the petitions that so we can get to our goal of 12,500 signatures to qualify for this ballot measure in the November election. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Westman?
As you mentioned earlier, there was some confusion about the Bay Avenue project and whether it was going to be on tonight's agenda. So I would actually like the council to perhaps schedule this for our first meeting in May, so that we said April or May, so that people can know exactly when it's going to happen and whenever it's going to happen. I think it's important because a lot of people sent in comments thinking it was going to be on tonight's agenda, that all of the comments that we have received over the last month or up until the time we have the hearing are included in the information packet that goes out.
So we can schedule it. I don't see our Public Works Director here. You're too close. You're too close.
I mean,
I'm like scanning the back of the room. I apologize, folks. Okay, the first meeting you made, that does work.
okay,
So we can set that, make it official. If we do, if
second
the
that,
other
yeah.
issues that come up, we may need to schedule a special meeting because I think that'll take a bit of time.
Okay.
We can work around that schedule.
Okay. The second thing I have is I attended the Senior Council Advisory Committee meeting, and there's a lot of discussion going on about counties taking over the, they call them AAA's, Area Agency on Aging. And so if something comes up on that the staff hears about, I'd appreciate that coming back to the council, because personally, I think it's important that we're partners with San Benito County, and if we do it with just Santa Cruz County, San Benito County their only option would be for the state to take them over because they're not a county with a population of over 100,000 people. So I just want to alert and have somebody come up for them. Third thing I have is a couple people have asked me about the speed bumps on Capitola Avenue and what was the process used to put those in. and how do they get speed bumps in their neighborhood similar to those. So I wonder if we could have something come back about what our process is for, installing speed bumps and what people have to do if they want to request one. And I've heard that in some jurisdictions, the neighborhoods pay for them or the cost is split 50-50. But I think, we want to know what people can do if they want to have those. And my last one is that I would like to hear from our city attorney about recusals. We had a comment under public communications or public comment, and I think it's important for us all to know when we should recuse ourselves and when we're not required to recuse ourselves.
Certainly, and I will try to condense my 2-hour training into a 30-second comment. But I think the way that in any event where where a council member has a financial interest in the outcome of a decision, the council member is required to recuse themselves, which means announcing what that conflict is, what the financial interest is, and then actually leaving the room. There are other types of conflicts, including conflicts for bias. The bias conflicts come into play when the council is making a quasi-judicial decision. Councilmember Westman has heard me say this. It's when I tell council members, imagine you're sitting up there with in a black robe and you're being asked to make a judgment on a decision before. Without having heard the evidence, you wouldn't want a judge to do that if you're appearing in front of that judge. Those are limited to situations where you're applying a set of facts to a particular set of facts for a particular property interest to a set of pre-established rules. Those are the quasi-judicial situations. Where it's a legislative determination is when you're making those rules. And when you're making those rules, you are expected to bring your perspective to the decision. And so there is no requirement to recuse yourself in those situations. Yeah,
That is a legislative decision, not a judicial.
It is a legislative decision. We've analyzed the facts and the circumstances, and it's our opinion that there's no conflict.
Okay, thank you.
Great. You, Vice Chair?
Yeah, thank you. Just report, I attended RTC meeting last week. The couple of things that are going on with RTC, which I think are very important, is RTC has formed a new 501c4, which is going to be a non-operating common carrier status, and the new name for that independent nonprofit is the Santa Cruz County Coastal Rail. All RTC commissioners now are going to be sitting on that also. It'll be a completely separate entity, and it has to do with being the common carrier. We also went into closed session to talk about other items regarding the common carrier status, and I think there's another RTC meeting agenda I think was posted tonight, and there's a meeting coming up on the 2nd of April where I'll be in attendance. A quick project update that I just received today with the railing on the bluff on Park Avenue. It's been pushed off now, some material delays, and it's now going to be then part of April, I was told. I also yesterday attended Visit Santa Cruz. We talked about ongoing occupancy numbers. It seems like they're projecting out for a flat year. Again, like it was last year, we're hoping that FIFA might see an influx, and so we're hoping for that, but we'll see. But no big alarming numbers that look like are going to help stimulate. I think something I've been very careful to try to look at what Capitola is doing, and it's trending about the same thing as what the rest of the cities in the area. I mean, the biggest city right now seeing a huge influx is San Diego, so that's where a lot of conferences are going and stuff. So hopefully our mall turns into a new project and we have a new conference center. Maybe that changes. And so those were my couple of comments that I had. And so thank you for your time.
Great. Great updates. Thank you. Ms. Orbach, would you please send me the petition so that I can sign for the ballot? That would be great. And my other comment was taken by Ms. Westman, so we're all good. All right, it'll take us to item 8, which is consent items. These can all be enacted in one motion, or unless a council member would like to pull any items.
I would like to pull item 8A and 8E.
Would you like to put those at the end of the meeting, or
They'll be very quick, but that's up to you, whatever you like to do.
are you comfortable having a discussion on those right now, or do you want to push them to the end?
The minutes, maybe you just take care of right now, and we can talk about the mall at the end.
Okay, let's do that. So item 8A.
Yeah, just at last week's meeting, it was more of a procedural maybe oversight on myself. I read a speech, and I wanted to have it recorded. I gave a copy to our city clerk. It was not recorded. And so under this item, I would like to now, instead of reading the same speech, I'll submit it and have it recorded for the record. So it is recorded. And I apologize about the procedural thing. I wish it was just addressed last week and we wouldn't have to pull the agenda tonight.
Got it. No problem. Would anybody wish to move items 8A through D along with F?
Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and move 8A to D and F.
And I'll second that.
Great.
As a minor clarification, incorporating the minute,
Oh. Yes, with the incorporation.
Councilmember Jensen's request. Yes.
Yes, adding the letter.
Sorry, I couldn't get the words.
I didn't have the word either. That's fine. All right. We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll revisit 8E later. All right. General government item 9A. We've got the Stockton Bridge Avenue Bridge that we'll be talking about. This is our investigation update. Thank you, Ms. Kant.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I have some general information, then also some updated information on the repair at the Stockton Avenue Bridge. So as you may recall, we have an ongoing investigation of the Stockton Avenue Bridge. Early last year, we presented a staff report talking about flooding risks related to the bridge, and the council had requested doing a structural evaluation. So we did an initial inspection within these manholes, which are pictured here. There is really limited visibility. The bridge is 100 years old. Utilities used to be in there. They've been moved. They've been abandoned. It was not much to see when you open the manholes. So we needed to create additional access points, which would be cutting into the deck structure. So we started that about 2 weeks ago. During that investigation, the activities of cutting into the bridge deck resulted in severing some of the structural elements, and that required repair. And so that's what we've been doing for the past 2 weeks. So with our engineer of record, which is Biggs Cardoza, on this project, they came up with a repair detail that was verified with a third-party engineering firm, which is Moffitt and Nickel. You may recall they have done work for us extensively on coastal infrastructure, both at the flume and for the wharf. And then in coordination with our contractor, as we dug up more to do the repair, as you often have to do when you cut something, we had to do some field adjustments, and all of these things were verified by both the engineer of record and the third-party firm. So if you look there on the left, that is nearest the Venetians. That's what the holes were supposed to look like. Here we are closer to the village proper, and this is what needed to be repaired. So the kind of middle part there you see on the bottom left of the right picture is a girder, which has structural steel in it that was severed. So instead of having just this area, we had to dig up this entire area to get to the point where we could remove some of those structures, the ones that were severed, and then put in a whole lot of steel to maintain the integrity of the bridge. This is a concrete pour. This is early Monday morning. There are 2 sets of holes there. So this is the first set that was covered. We can only do one at a time to keep the stability of the bridge. This is when they're about complete with that concrete pour. And as of this afternoon, we have dug up the other side and are prepared to pour that concrete on Friday. So when you pour concrete, it has to cure to get to its design strength. So assuming that we
complete the forming and the inspection tomorrow morning, we will be doing that second pour tomorrow afternoon, curing over the weekend, and the bridge will reopen on Monday early morning. Going back to what we initially had done this investigation for, we should have a full peer-reviewed condition report with the engineer of record here on the meeting on April 9th, which will include the structural findings, recommended next steps, and then cost implications. I believe that is my last slide. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for the update. Ms. Westman, any questions?
No, thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Just a question on the investigation costs. That was wrapped into the money that we got off the grant from John Laird? Is that how that's being funded?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Great. Ms. Orbach?
Yeah, just one question. When all the repairs are complete, is there any reason to question whether the safety of the bridge has been compromised by our decision to do this investigation?
Not after the repair is complete, no.
Great, thank you.
And just to expand on that, so we'll say before the investigation, the bridge was whole. The work was done. We found the issues. It's been repaired. It's whole again.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I have no questions. We can go out to public comment on this item. Anyone wish to speak, please come on up. Welcome.
Good evening. Karen Hanna. First, I'm speaking as a business owner and an officer of the BIA. We're very excited about the completion of the bridge and the reopening. So I'm really glad to hear that it's going to be next week. While the businesses have been quiet about the necessity of the closure and the effect it's had on the businesses during this spring break, we want to assure the city and the council that it's not because it had no negative impact. At this time, the BIA would like to state that any closure of the bridge should only be done if the project is of utmost urgency and importance. The impact was felt throughout the village and all the neighborhoods between the bridge and the freeway and all the way into SoCal, with people having to detour, like me. So now I'd like to speak just briefly as a longtime resident and property owner in Capitola. I would hope that our iconic and historical bridge would not be replaced solely because of the possibility of debris collecting during a storm. In the past, that was dealt with the positioning of a crane, which required the bridge just to be closed for a few days. So hopefully there's nothing structurally wrong with the bridge. That's a whole nother matter. But if it's just debris collection, I think we'll have a whole lot of conversation about it at that point. But anyway, we're just happy it's going to be open again so that we can enjoy the rest of the spring break that's coming up. The timing was just, as it usually turns out in the village, not good, but it couldn't be avoided. But we would like to just say we'll be happy to have our bridge back. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for this item? All right, we'll bring it back to council. We are just receiving the report. Would anybody like to share any comments?
Thanks for the report.
I'd written some comments. Okay. I'm just going to say it's truly unfortunate that the bridge sustained some damage during this inspection. I think there's always a level of risk when we do this type of work, which is why projects have contingency costs built into them. I want to thank our city manager and Director Khan for taking such a deliberate and measured approach to the unexpected damage to the bridge. I think we needed strong leadership to act swiftly to address the repairs needed to restore the bridge safely and to minimize cost and disruption to the public. I think any other approach would have delayed reopening of the bridge and cost the city more money. So I appreciate your work and I look forward to the final report.
Yeah, my only comments are thank you for the work. I know this was a tough project, so I'm looking forward to Monday. All right. 9B, Community Action Board appointment. We will be appointing a representative to our Santa Cruz County Community Action Board.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight we are here, staff recommends appointing a representative to the Santa Cruz County Community Action Board. The city's previous representative resigned in December of 2025. Staff presented the item to council on January 8th, and the council directed staff to advertise the vacancy to the public. Staff received 2 applicants for this position. A letter of recommendation from CAB to appoint Manuel Castro was included in the agenda packet. The city council should, by motion and vote, appoint a new representative. The council may appoint a council member or a member of the public to represent Capitola on the board.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Clark, any questions? Okay. Any questions? Questions? Okay. Any public comment on this item? Hi, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Helen Yuen Story. I'm the COO for Community Action Board of Santa Cruz County, more commonly known as CAB. As you know, CAB is the county's designated community action agency and created 60 years ago, basically to partner with the community to eliminate poverty. So we serve over 9,000 low-income residents annually through 5 main program areas, including a community resource center up in Davenport, youth and adult employment and enrichment services, legal services, special projects, and homelessness prevention and intervention services, which is where we've had a really strong partnership with the city over many, many years to help provide rent assistance to low-income city residents and help prevent evictions and homelessness. And we thank you for that continuing partnership. So by design, community action agencies must have a tripartite board of directors where there's equal representation between 3 sectors, low income, private, and public sector, including from the city of Capitola, where we were fortunate to have former council member Kristen Brown be your representative to our board since 2014. And we truly thank her for her tremendous service and dedication over the years. She was just a stellar board member, and we thank you and she for her service. When she resigned in late 2025, we were fortunate to have a few individuals express interest in the seat. And then to have New Brighton Middle School teacher and Capitola resident, Manuel Castro, put forth his letter of interest. And I know he's not able to be here tonight because there's an open house at the middle school this evening. But we support Manuel's appointment to the CAB board, given his personal and professional experience and commitment to both CAB's mission as well as this community. And so we respectfully request the council's approval of his appointment. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? All right, seeing none, we'll come back to council. Any comments?
Yeah, my one comment is I looked into Mr. Castro a little bit and understand he worked for the recreation department, and people were really sad to see when he left, and that he's doing a great job at New Brighton Middle School from what I hear, and so it'd be great to bring him aboard.
Awesome. Any comment?
No, except to, I'd like to move to appoint Manuel Castro to the CAB Community Action Board.
Great.
I'll second that.
Great. Any comments after the second? All right. That's a first and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Clark?
Aye.
Councilmember Orbach?
Aye.
Councilmember Westman?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Jensen?
Aye.
Mayor Morgan?
Aye. Passes unanimously. Thank you so much. And thank you, Manuel Castro. We'll go on to 9C, which is our local roadway safety plan. Tonight, we're receiving an informational presentation on the draft of our local roadway safety plan, and we'll provide feedback. Jessica, again.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. We are reaching the end of the development of our local roadway safety plan and wanted to bring a draft for you here to consider this evening prior to final adoption. So as you may, that's what we're doing tonight. There is no action required today. As you may recall, the local roadway safety plan, or LRSP, is really a data-driven exercise. So it's taking data from many sources, and then you use it to support grants generally, and also just the development of traffic improvements in the city in general. It really focuses on fatal and severe injury crashes, and it is supported directly by the FHWA and Caltrans. So it identifies crash patterns, safety risk factors, and then again, potential improvements for safer streets for all. So again, this plan was developed with crash data, review of our current roadway conditions and traffic volumes, and then also behavioral factors, which really comes into play when considering some of the improvements suggested. We also had community engagement on this project, including an evening public meeting in October, an online survey, and that included an interactive map, which are included as attachments to your staff report. So some of the results here show I've shown you a heat map pretty often before that shows just where the accidents are. But this exercise also includes corridors that had more injury accidents than others. So the thick yellow lines, that there are, the more crashes they were. And since Capitola is a small community, we really don't get above 5 to 6 crashes in any intersection or stretch, but that really does add up when you compare us to comparable cities in California. So some of that data from OTS, which is the Office of Traffic Safety, they take comparable cities throughout the state based on location and size and kind of make up a population. And there are 74 cities in the state of California that are used as comparables to Capitola. And then you get rankings based on the crash category and how many crashes you had and how that compares to how many other crashes or fatalities that other cities had. And you really don't want the high numbers. The high number means you're number one. So, and red there, and I know it's a little hard to see, out of our comparable cities, Capitola ranks number 1 in injury and fatal crashes for pedestrians over 65, number 2 for both bicycle crashes in general and for bicycle crashes for those under the age of 15. So while the numbers may seem low over the past couple of years compared to comparable cities, they're really high. So what are we seeing in Capitola? It also meets that OTS table where we have a lot of pedestrian and bicycle crashes, and the contributing factors based on the data from the incident reports and traffic reports are speeding, impaired driving, and then right-of-way conflicts where people are just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that really matches what we saw in our community outreach, with people's top concerns being speeding, unsafe crossings, obviously e-bikes we've talked about here in the chambers many times before, and then particularly in our key corridors, 41st, Bay Avenue, Capitola Road. So the plan recommends infrastructure improvements for better crossings and visibility and facilities, and then also has programmatic strategies, so education and outreach, which we do proactively do here in the city. Included in the report are case study locations, and so we did not have the consultant get too deep into 41st or Bay Avenue because we have ongoing projects in those areas and really look to see for more low cost, easily implementable in other locations where we have those high concentration of crashes. So one of those examples is at Capitola Road and Clare Street. So that's over by Target. And there was really a mix of crash types, including bicycle and pedestrian related crashes. Really, it was all over the map, but there was a high concentration of crashes in that intersection. So some recommended improvements, which I have a little bit more clear here, that meet the crash reduction factors, which is something put out by the FHWA that have data against them that show that they reduce these type of crashes, are things such as a leading pedestrian interval, which is where you hit the button to cross a street and you get your walkman a few seconds before the green light goes. So you're already in the intersection before a car may be turning right into where you're walking. Reflective backplates that Caltrans has implemented on all their intersections throughout the state. Right now, that's how you can tell it's a Caltrans intersection. But a lot of other cities have started, I know they've started doing that along SoCal and Santa Cruz as well here recently. And then advanced stop bars is where a lot of times the stop bar and the crosswalk are the same location. So you have cars that encroach onto the crosswalk, and this keeps them a distance back from the crosswalk. So those are relatively low, easily implementable for this intersection, and there are several other case studies for our high injury intersection and corridors included in the report. So the way we implement this is there's prioritization based on the benefit, the cost, and the feasibility. And then we use those to apply for funding opportunities, which are listed there. Most are state, some are federal. But given our high ranking in the OTS, our Office of Traffic Safety ratings for ped and bike crashes right now make us very competitive, fortunately, unfortunately. A potential future item for the council to consider is having a resolution that identifies a safety goal for example, zero pedestrian collisions by 2030. That's something the council may want to consider in the future. The next steps for this LRSP is to finalize the plan. Any feedback you may want to give to us this evening for us to finalize and return it for adoption, and then really implementing these recommendations into our capital planning and grant applications. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Westman, questions?
I think I'll save mine till we do comments. Thank you.
Okay, great. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, a couple of questions regarding the funding. It says that part of it is going to 239,000, whatever, 500 will come out of the Measure D funding. Is that correct?
I think you may be referring to our 41st Avenue project.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I thought they're okay. So I guess my other question then, it goes more back to maybe our chief can respond to this. When it talks about the speed as a study point to this, I was wondering if we could have an overview of what we're doing locally about speed control in the community with some of these incidents that we're having outside of like always having a plan and stuff like that.
A plan for overall speed.
Well, like what's our enforcement rates and like over the last 5 years? Do we see an influx of tickets that we're giving out? Is there a change in community policing or those sorts of things that can help offset that?
So I'm in preparation for this, just to get more granular. I'm trying to get some data from our records management system, which takes a little bit of time. So I'm prepared to submit a memo to council that'll give more granular data over the last, I was actually looking at the last 10 years to see what the patterns are. But I know that more recently in the last 5 years, we've made great efforts to send all of our officers to radar and LiDAR school so that they are qualified to work speed and to improve our enforcement efforts when it comes to that. However, as we continue to talk about the challenges between e-bikes, bikes, pedestrians, and vehicles, we're navigating that constantly with enforcement and education. If that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It'd be interesting to see that data, just what we're doing. Also, it'd be interesting, and I know you highlighted in the past, just on our reporting system, it's hard to talk about e-bikes, but like, I think e-bikes are a huge, not a problem in our community, but them not abiding by the rules and the laws. And so they just, cars are stopping at a stop sign, and they just blow through a stop sign because they don't think they're a car, but obviously they need to stop at a stop sign, or turning, and going on the wrong way in the street. So I was really interested to see what enforcement we're doing at that same time as we're looking at, everything's a plan or looking at funding for the future, but a lot of it is going to be, I guess, training or reinforcement of where our local jurisdiction laws are and stuff like that. And it'd be interesting to see your data to see if that's dropped off or where we are, what maybe that needs to be a focus or a goal from our council and working with you as the chief, that'd be more enforcement.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm prepared within the next week to be able to provide that data that'll show, because what Director Khan's able to provide is what's reported in terms of accidents that have unfortunate circumstances attached to it. But I'd like to come back with some data about enforcement and the types of moving violations that we're actually addressing from a citation standpoint. And definitely, what we talked about in the last city council meeting in regards to e-bikes, our incidents, e-bike related, we're constantly navigating the increase of that.
I appreciate the focus on the youth, but a lot of our problems are just adults at the same time.
Correct.
Flowing through the stop sign. So,
And the way that the driving patterns right now, people are driving, cutting through neighborhoods, dealing with a lot of construction around our county. And so we're responding to even incidents and locations that aren't necessarily normal because people are cutting through and trying to find other ways around.
thank you. And I apologize just about asking the funding question, but when this report is done, will you come back to council like on what potential grants are? And so how are those decided? What grants will we apply for? Is that just how does that work through that process?
So particularly Caltrans has calls for projects. Some of them are annual, some of them are periodic based on the state budget. Whenever these go out, we do check them against current projects depending on what the funding is for. Some are like for pedestrian projects or signal timing, and then how far along we are and if it's competitive for the city to apply.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Questions?
I'll go ahead and go. I'll give it a stab. Yeah, that's an incredible amount of information. All the graphs were quite interesting. You can go down the rabbit hole just looking at them all. But it's remarkable that we have projects going on the two main arteries that are Bay Avenue and 41st Avenue. So you talked about a safety goal. What does a safety goal look like for us for that?
Many jurisdictions choose to do a Vision Zero goal. That's a very and this, to be clear, is not a Vision Zero plan. That has something with a whole different set of requirements. And it's hard to do a Vision Zero plan with the low number. It's a lot about statistics. We have a low number of incidences. But typically a Vision Zero goal is to pick a date out in the future, 2030, 2040, 2050, and then have measurable goals to get to that, no injury accidents. Generally, it's a no fatality statement. But it's really the council signaling that they have a commitment to reduce any kind of serious injuries on the roadways.
That would be great to see. Thank you.
Yes, just to piggyback on Councilmember Jensen's question, I know during the report it said, near midterm focus areas, which recommended that the city focus on aggressive driving, speeding, vulnerable road users, including pedestrians and cyclists. Do we, talking about the data collection with you, Chief Ryans, do we have data on whether installing speed limit feedback signs helped reduce speeding and, make the accidents? I don't know if you can kind of look back on when we installed speed limit feedback signs and whether that could be a prediction of how effective it is.
We can look at that. In fact, there was a time in the last decade where speed limits were changed on Park Avenue, for example. And we can look at data that correlates to that.
And is that something we can do, provide or install more speed limit, feedback signs if it shows that it's effective in those main kind of arterial corridor roads? Jamie, you look like you're going to say something.
Yeah. So it was a number of years ago when we initially installed the speed feedback sign, but we had just gone through, I think we did our speed survey right before, and then we were able to measure speeds right afterwards. And we saw it was between a 1 and 2 mile an hour drop, actually, right after we installed them. I will note that as I have seen personally, so that's the actual data. We could pull that data up. I'm sure we would have it somewhere where we actually pulled those and ran those numbers. I will note now personally, my own experience is that it seems as if those things were really effective when they first popped up, 15, 20 years ago. And I don't know that they're as effective as they were initially, because I think people, when the first time they saw them, they thought, I'm going to get a ticket, if it says that I'm going over the speed limit. And then obviously we've all learned that you don't. So I would assume they're still effective. I don't know if they're as effective as they were when we first put them in.
How do we couple that with enforcement so that people know that there's a possibility they may get a ticket? So I think ramping that up a bit so the community sees that there are, police force there may help. This is just, one of the near and midterm goals that I saw from the report. In addition, I wanted to circle back. I know Director Hurley had presented on AB 413 a while back about daylighting. And then, I'm curious as to whether we have implemented changes citywide. What's the update? And that's the one where we take away a parking spot at the corner so that people have more, cars have more visibility of pedestrians crossing the street.
That was actually Director Khan and I
Director Khan?
that worked on that together. Yeah,
Director Khan.
we have implemented, but I don't know if you have any comments on it.
So when that initially came through, we implemented taking out parking spots in the village, which is why we had brought it to council, and that has all been done. That has all been completed. There are other places like near the school that we painted red curbs. It's not super practical to paint a red curb in every single location where daylighting is applicable. I think that's a discussion we could have again, but that is where we have started with.
Have we done it for all the major corridors that are problematic where pedestrians are crossing?
Ones that have been reported, yeah, and we have worked with the police to identify where those are.
We have, and we've done a lot of outreach and enforcement.
Okay, great. Thank you for the update there. And then will we be incorporating the goals and plans here with our active transportation plan? I see those as coming kind of hand in hand.
Yes, so because we have multiple traffic studies going on right now, including the LRSP, all of those will be included in the ATP and contribute to the ATP development.
Great, thank you. I think those are my questions for now. Thank you.
I don't think I have any questions. I can go to public comment. Anybody's wanting to speak on this item, please feel free.
It creates a singularized intersection, brings order to that chaos. It creates a clear right-of-way, predictable movement, and critically features like leading pedestrian intervals where pedestrians get a head start, cross it before vehicles move. That visibility saves lives. And while some may suggest a roundabout, this location serves a large number of seniors, families, students on bikes, a dance studio, Dairy Queen, Pete's Coffee, Starbucks. Roundabouts require constant judgment and merging, something that can be challenging and intimidating for more vulnerable users. A stoplight provides certainty and dedicated crossing times. We also have clear comparison on the other side of the freeway with the signalized intersections. So yeah, I think we should look at signals there, and people shouldn't have to guess whether it's safe to cross. A signal gives us that dedicated time, especially with a lot of people with mobility issues and seniors right there. So if we can study what's on Porter Street and the signal instead of a roundabout. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? All right, seeing none, we'll come back to council for some comments.
Okay. Well, I found the report absolutely fascinating. There was an awful lot of information in there, and there were things in there which are solutions that, in all honesty, I had never heard about or thought about. And one of the things I found interesting was that they actually have systems where they can detect bicycles if a bicycle is, in a bicycle box. And we've certainly heard a lot of complaints about, no right turn because on reds. And it seems like that, some of this new technology may make it possible for us to protect bicyclists when they are there by being able to detect that they're there, but then allow people, if there's no bicyclist there, to go ahead and make a right-hand turn, because that will keep traffic moving. I also found it fascinating that we have a report that gives us actual income of the people who are driving on our roads, such as 41st Avenue. We've certainly gotten a lot of information about flock cameras and why those are not good, and it seems like there is other information out there. Someone told me they thought it actually came from cell phone data, which indicates what the income is of the people who are driving on the streets. So I found that fascinating. During this time, there has been sort of a significant increase on e-bikes. And so I want to make certain that we look at how that's impacting what's going on in town. I was curious about, we had Park Avenue aligned as yellow, as an area where that's high in traffic accidents. And I think it will be great when we get the chief's information about, has that gotten better with the speed being lowered in that area, or are there still additional things that we need to do in that area to help deal with the speed, particularly since that seems like it's a major route that a lot of kids use for going to New Brighton Middle School. And the other thing I found fascinating was at the end, it seems like many of the problems are created by aggressive driving. And I think we have seen that significantly increase in our community and sort of the county as a whole because of all of the construction going on the freeway and in other areas. But it does seem to me, and sometimes we even do things that, restrict driving and make people become more aggressive. So I think when we look at traffic improvements, one things we want to analyze, are we really improving it? Sometimes we want to do traffic calming, and I think that's great for residential neighborhoods, but is that traffic calming going to make things worse because we're creating more aggressive drivers there? I look forward to seeing the final report, and I think it's a good step going forward to, have this information about our community and be able to see where the major places that we have conflicts between cars, pedestrians, and cyclists going on. So thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
I just want to make sure when we get the information about the traffic enforcement, stuff like that, would that be able to be shared in a way to the community, and what does that look like? And I know how that could happen, but other than just report to council.
I think we can report to council, and I think we can also include it in the final LRSP. I mean, it seems like it'll be a good data set that we can use and then, monitor over time and for future updates and posterity. And so future chiefs can look at the records and understand how things have changed over time. So I think that's a good place to put it, and then it would be included in the document when it comes back to council for adoption.
I think that kind of statistical data, people should be able to see it. 100%, yeah.
And I'm sorry, I might have missed it. The time frame for this to be finalized?
So unless the council has a whole lot more comments, which you may, and I'm happy to hear them, this is something we'd probably turn around in the next couple of meetings.
I'm sorry?
In the next 2 to 3 council meetings, it would be back for adoption.
I didn't know if it was a 6-month thing. I would just want to get the data out, but it'll be quick. That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, let's, we can talk about it, and we definitely should, that everybody is suffering from construction traffic fatigue. And what we have to do maybe in our safety goal is put the word out there that we have to set the example on our driving habits. People are cutting off their neighbors and not even realizing what they're doing. They're screaming and yelling and acting out. And then we're asking our youth on e-bikes not to do the same thing that we're doing. So I think we should make that part of our safety goal is education. And when we try to do our projects, try not to do them while there's other ones going on, so that the whole county's been suffering just from immense traffic from all the construction. So if we can all work on that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so this report provided a lot of data that I think support the truths that we all know, that we already know as residents living in this community, that the highest incidence of roadway conflict happen on 41st Avenue, Capitola Road, Bay Ave, Cliff Drive in the Village, and Park Avenue. It's great that we are moving forward with those corridor studies. Hopefully we'll make some great improvements. But I think we need to do better. We rank among the top 50 in terms of total fatal and injury crashes, and I think we can do better. I do like the idea of setting a goal, a zero fatality goal of, 2040, 2050, whatever that is, and that basically holds us accountable for continuing to improve the safety of our roads for all of our residents. And I think as we move forward with the corridor studies and the implementation, I really would like to see the low-hanging fruit engineering countermeasures that was presented on Table 5 be considered in all of those designs. I like things like the modified signal to provide the leading pedestrian interval, installing better lighting at intersections, and of course, dedicated bike lanes. And of the 5 case study locations that I looked at, I really want to see the city move forward with applying for grant funding for Capitola Road in Clares and Capitola Road and 30th Avenue. Those are areas that I know people in my community cross every day to go to Brown's Ranch, go across the mall. We have had multiple incidences there where we were close call in terms of being on our bikes with our kids. It's a pretty scary intersection. And I hear from my neighbors in that area that, it's a scary place to cross. So I like those recommendations that you pointed out, Director Khan, with, the recessed, cars, I don't know what you call it now, and having the improved lighting and the leading pedestrian intervals. I think if we can try to look for funding, those would be some of my priority projects. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I was curious about the intersection on Capitola and 30th, so that was good to see that there are some options to try to mitigate some of that. Forgive me, I know this is mostly kind of centered around intersections, but is there much talk about speed bumps? I mean, we do get that feedback from the community a lot, so I don't know if that is focused at all in here.
So the local roadway safety plan includes intersections, both signalized, unsignalized, and the other category is segments, road segments.
Right.
So it did include road segments. I don't believe any of the recommendations were for any kind of vertical deflection or speed bump. Off the top of my head, my guess is that it's not in there just because that's generally not considered a traffic mitigation that is encouraged by the FHWA. Like, it's allowed, but typically not encouraged. And this is trying to meet kind of their guidelines of this document.
Okay. And this is just in my brain, I'm just thinking if we're slowing people down, that's helpful regardless of whether it's an intersection or just a straightaway. And just to have we're just going to have emphasis on the e-bikes. And I think that would kind of pertain to them as well. But obviously, if you're going to get funding for something else other than that, please do any of those items that we discussed. Yeah, I think I too, I would love to kind of prioritize the safety goals with this, and thank you for all of this. All right, we have received and provided feedback. Does anybody else have any other comments? Okay, great. Thank you so much once again. All right, item 9D, 41st Avenue pavement rehabilitation and multimodal improvements. You get to stay with us.
One more. This is a very exciting project for me because this road is in very bad condition. If you recall, the 41st Pavement and Multimodal Improvements Project is primarily a pavement rehabilitation project along 41st Avenue, which obviously services residential, commercial access to Highway 1. We bid this as night work, so the vast majority of this work will be done from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. And the improvements include bike and pedestrian upgrades, ADA curb ramps, and striping and signage updates. This is one of the key items of this, so you recall, not that this changed in any way, is the bike bollards along the overcrossing on the highway, which is going to prevent motorists who are moving southbound getting off on 41st from jumping right back on, which is becoming a problem at all of our freeway on and off ramps. But this one is very conducive to having a solution of this matter that also protects bicyclists. We do have the curbs here in the yellow with the tiny bollards on it. They are more sustainable than the ones that are extremely floppy, but they are obviously not filled with concrete, so someone could perceivably run over them. We know there's been a lot of feedback from the bicycles community on the project recently completed along Soquel Avenue in the county, and luckily we've really been able to leverage some of that public comment in developing this project. So these are different types of dividers. They have a curb rather than being individual pieces. They are also colored yellow. So we are hoping that they for sure will get hit, but hopefully less so. Other significant pieces of this changes from what the roadway is today is having some of that lane selection on the roadway itself. So this lane for southbound one, this lane for northbound one, and then also improve signage at the intersection. So hopefully that helps people with lane selection as they're trying to get onto the highway. One change that we do have from when the council previously saw this item, there was a comment, I believe, I don't remember which one of you commented on it, but it was a good comment that the bicycle lane as you approach the Clare Street intersection was straddling the free right turn lane and the through lane. And we went, and that is circled in red there is that driveway here for Burger King, just to kind of orient yourself. So that is quite a long way to be straddling traffic and a bicycle. That is how it is striped now, though it is very faded. That is the way it's striped now, which is why we had proposed that. We went back to our traffic designer to see if there were better ways to deal with this, and there are. So as you're coming from that development that has the laundromat, the kind of weird circular driveway, you stay in the right lane up against the side of the road, and then you do that transition just before the Burger King. So it's a much shorter transition area and period where you're straddling the lanes. So you may recall we bid this as a base bid and an ad alternate, just not knowing how the numbers would come back. The base bid is in the Caltrans right-of-way, which is Corey Street up by the county line and down to Gross Road through the intersection. And the ad alternate was from Gross Road down to Clare Street. So we received two bids from Granite Construction and Granite Rock, which are two different contractors. And we got some really favorable bid pricing for this. We'll get into it in a couple slides. It is above what we had budgeted for this project, but it is a very good price at $2.04 million for this size of a project. One thing that we did want to mention, because you have asked multiple times, how is this coordinating with the corridor study that Director Herlihy had mentioned at the beginning of the meeting? And one place that this really connects with the corridor study, where there's a potential to do a little bit of that work in the short term, is a potential for a gateway. Obviously, Director Herlihy will come back on the 23rd to describe this in more robust detail, but at the curb at 41st and Capitola Road Extension, which is a pizza right there in front of Pizza My Heart on the picture there, There's about 3 parking spaces, and that is proposed to extend the sidewalk and the curb to allow for some kind of monument sign, kind of so you know you're in Capitola. And that is not designed in any way. And this project has the potential, since we have a fair amount of concrete work on this project, to potentially include this if the council wants to consider that when discussing that project in a couple meetings. Fiscal impact for this project, again, the original budget was $1.7 million for this project. Every year we budget special revenue, which is for this project, Measure D, and RMRA, which is more commonly known as SB1. We get estimates from the state of what that's going to be, and then we budget conservatively so we know what we budget for during the year will meet the amount of money we expect to get. So we under budget every year. So as Director Malberg reported last meeting, I believe, there is a fund balance in there of about $240,000 that we have not allocated to any project at this time. Additionally, with the remainder of the gas tax, we budget that in the same way. So there is a sizable excess fund balance there that we propose allocating $60,000 to this project. And so with those added funds, we can deliver the base and adult, so all the way from the city limit down to Clare Street for this project with those extra funds. The tentative schedule with Granite Rock would be May, June. Again, night work. We would do outreach to all the businesses in that area, hope to impact them the least amount possible for a project on a major arterial. And again, pavement condition, enhance multimodal safety, and really just having that whole corridor have a refresh down to the mall. And with that, the recommended action is on the screen, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Clark?
Yeah, can we go back to the slide that shows southbound 1 coming onto 41st Avenue and then where it goes back on?
Yes.
Highway 1? Where the yellow line is bumped out there, couldn't they not put some more bollards right there where it says 1,600, 16 feet or whatever it is? See the yellow line that's curved?
Yeah, this one here.
Could they not put some bollards there too? Because they're coming across. And I think the only thing they're going to do is they're going to come across, go down towards Clare Street, and then whip right back on again. Is there any way you could put more bollards on in the middle part of the intersection?
I can inquire about that. I will say that the permitting process to get this through Caltrans was significant and expensive. I can definitely ask. I couldn't answer that question right now.
And the other thing they're doing to defeat this is they're going just all the way down to Gross Road Extension and then doing a U-turn. Is there any way we could keep that from happening? Would be a good thing. No, they're still going to find a way to circumvent it. But just thoughts. Thank you.
Can I just ask one quick question just while that slide's up there? Why do they stagger the where people stop on the right-hand side of,
Here, these here.
Yeah, what's the purpose of that?
Oh, why didn't you answer?
I believe that's to allow the left turn into Home Depot. Otherwise, you'd have to either cut back the right lane much further back and you'd lose queuing, or have the other lane further forward, in which case you'd be difficult to make the left turn northbound to Home Depot.
Okay, I'm be honest, I'm not understanding that, but you're probably not understanding my question either, so. But these people are going straight. Yes. Okay.
That's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Orbach. You are much clearer.
Do you have more questions? Sorry. Okay. Councilmember Rohrbach?
I don't think I have any questions because you answered my questions already, and I'm glad to see that change in the bike lane, making it shorter and easier. Thank you.
Ms. Westman? question?
I'll wait for comments.
Okay, great. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, going back to my question, excuse me, on the Measure D funding that we found, was that subsequent years all put together, like that over a 5-year period that money was allocated?
Yes, so that is like under budgeting for the revenue we actually received over multiple years.
And then with the gas tax, that money comes in, and then that money, who allocates, or how do those decisions get made to use gas tax money? Are those just designed for specific projects, or is there a qualifier for those?
So outside of SB1, so just to be clear, is also a gas tax. Generally, the rest of our gas tax goes towards operations. So we have like a striping budget every year. We have a budget for maintaining our street lights. So that is in a special revenue fund, but generally those funds go to operations.
Okay. And the $60,000 won't affect any of those operational costs?
No.
Okay. And then my other question, from the Measure D funding, is there a match from the city when we spend Measure D money or not?
Not for the formula funds, no.
Okay, perfect. Those are all my questions. I'm excited to see the project get going.
I think I just had a follow-up on the gas tax. So is the 60,000, you probably said it, is that all that we have in there right now available, or is that just the amount we're taking from there?
The latter. So yeah, there's a fund balance greater of $60,000. Forgive me off the top of my head. I don't know what it is.
That's fine. I just
It
didn't
is
know if we
not
were
all
like
of it.
draining it or what the plan was. Okay, cool. Yeah, no further questions for me. Members of the public, anybody wish to speak on this item? Please come forward. I don't see any movement. So we'll come back for deliberation or motion or both. Ms. Westman, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I did want to thank you for changing the bike lane and moving that up. That was a concern that I had expressed. I also think it's great that we're going to go with sort of an improved bollard program, because there certainly has been a lot of criticism about how the one was designed on Soquel Drive, particularly from the bicycle community. And if we reach the point where we're able to do it, I think doing the bulb out where Pizza My Heart is would be a nice addition to this particular project. And I'm absolutely in favor of this and using these funds to make the project whole and go forward with it. I do think we need to be real conscious. You know, we're spending a lot of money on big projects, that we have some money available for doing some of our smaller local residential streets, because it seems like year after year we do a big project and then we don't have any money to do sort of regular maintenance. But I think this one will be a big improvement for 41st Avenue.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I just saw it. There was $245,000 in the gas tax. So
thank you.
I knew Jessica's report was always detailed, and I had it. Just follow up to Councilmember Westman's. This will not have any effect on any project money going forward for 26, 27 for pavement or anything. We won't be making decisions tonight that will affect future projects in other neighborhoods and stuff. Is that correct?
No. So next fiscal year, which is coming up really fast, it includes all the streets that are on the PMP for that fiscal year. So we still, and to be clear, these stretches where we're also on the PMP in our 5-year plan.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much.
Comments?
Thank you for all the work. I'm excited to see this project move forward. I agree with perhaps planning ahead to have that bulb out for the corridor study. I think it would look really nice to have some type of entrance design, welcome to Capitola, some art, and I would like to move the recommended action.
I'll second.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Again, thank you. I'm definitely into the yellow bollards. I drove down Soquel the other day and there was like one little white one for like a whole block. And then I was like, oh, this just doesn't look good. So I'm excited that we changed that up, and the bike lane as well. It's a great project. Let's do a roll call.
Councilmember Clark?
Aye.
Councilmember Orbach? Aye. Councilmember Westman?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Jensen.
Aye.
Mayor Clark. Excuse me, Mayor Morgan.
Hi, thank you. Passes unanimously. We'll go to item 9E, fiscal year 26-27 budget principles and goals.
Good evening, Mayor Morgan, members of the council. I'm going to kick us off this evening, and then I'll turn it over to our finance director. So this is the kickoff kind of our budget cycle each year, is looking at sort of what are we seeing in the coming year ahead. What are some of the items that staff has heard from the council or heard from the community could be priorities for next year, and then hearing from the council about what their priorities might be, what their priorities are as well. So next slide. Oh, I have a clicker. Look at that. So the first thing we do, I think, when we start out with our looking at our goals and principles for next coming year is to look at the city's strategic plan, which identified this sort of 6 pillars, if you will, of sort of health and safety and wellness that we were looking for within the city of Capitola, and then comparing sort of those pillars against the different kind of projects and programs that we're proposing. This is the list of the CIP projects that are in the works, and then the kind of major planning projects / programs that are also in the works. It's not an exhaustive list, and the difference between projects on the left and the right, I think you could debate them a little bit. But really it kind of goes through the big projects that we're working on. And some of those projects will potentially be done this fiscal year, but I think nearly all of them carry over into next year. I think the only project would be, we're currently at a completion point at the Brisbane Mansion, but we have new elements we're going to be working on. We have a partnership with a fundraiser. We've talked about the paver stones, and you'll recall that we have some outstanding grant requests also in the works as well. I guess the key project that we do expect will be done is the big one right there. The second from the top is the Community Center Complex projects, which is the $10 million overall investment that we've made over at Jade Street Park. So next slide. So now we're going to dive into a couple of the different goals that the projects the departments have identified for next fiscal year. Next year's an election cycle, as the council knows. That comes with a budget impact. We need to budget for that. We also have employee contracts coming due, and we probably should include some funding around that as well. In addition, we're proposing in beach lifeguard services organization study to take a look at how we're doing beach lifeguards, because Capitola is a bit unique in oceanfront communities that provide ocean lifeguards, and that we don't have our own fire department. So taking a look at that and seeing if we're doing it most efficiently and safely. Looking at the administrative services department, they'd like to improve financial transparency. Maybe not the most transparent goal in the world. What that means is they're looking at some different types of software that would provide better access to city finances for members of the public, and also then transitioning to a paperless HR division. Another economic opportunity goal we have is previously have contracted with HDL to do administration of our hotel tax, bringing that back into internal staff and potentially trying to leverage some of the work with, there's some different AI tools that are available now, and looking to see if those might make the entire process more efficient. Under the police department, we recently gave a proclamation to folks advocating for human trafficking awareness. Our police department thinks it would be appropriate for the city to consider a human trafficking ordinance specific to Capitola. We've talked for years about the countywide records management system. That is subtext to the story that you heard this evening from Chief Ryan when she was talking about the difficulties in gathering data from our current records management system. It's been an issue for police organizations in this county for a very long time, and we're anticipating that rolling out this next year. And then we're talking about providing the funding for some major technology programs that we have within the police department. We've talked about the regional radio network, the body-worn cameras, the drone program. Under community and economic development, This is the combination of things that we have committed to in the housing element, as well as some items that we've heard council mention in the past. We talked about down payment assistance program is something we've committed to in the housing element, and then also looking at our inclusionary fees for rental housing. That would be the amount of funding that rental housing projects would need to contribute for new affordable housing in the city. We've talked during the mall process about AB 1600 development impact fees and tying some of the 41st Avenue corridor projects to those impact fees for the mall. The outdoor dining program, I think by all accounts, has been going relatively well, but it did have a 3-year lifespan when it was originally approved, so that needs to be evaluated by this fall. Continuing to work on economic development opportunities with the mall, village hotel owners, as well as other opportunities to continue to grow our economic base. And then we have a number of ordinance updates, community, which Director Hurley has mentioned in the past, community benefits section, ADU ordinance updates. I feel like we haven't done one in maybe 18 months, so I'm sure we're overdue. We've talked about the citywide bicycle parking ordinance, taking a look at that, and then hotel incentives as well. In community service and recreation, we need to update our community center rental package as we have new facilities there. We're going to have new offerings we're going to be able to rent. We also want to explore and enhance and develop new opportunities related to the renovated facilities. We're going to have a commercial kitchen, which can lead to more opportunities, as well as facilities that are more easily separated than they have been in the past. So when we've tried to offer Zumba or Pilates classes or the Bone Builder series, it's difficult to do those things in tandem because the Zumba class can be pretty loud. So trying to grow those programs at times when they can maybe operate when historically they haven't been able to. So of those items we mentioned, the items on the left will have a general fund impact. We haven't put a firm dollar figure to them, but you will see them if council approves in the proposed budget. The items on the right will live hopefully primarily in special revenue funds. The police technology item, I'm sort of highlighting the connection between the two. Historically, we funded a lot of these programs out of the SLEF fund, which is the Special Law Enforcement Augmentation Fund. And I think we may be spending those dollars twice at this point. So we need to really take a hard look at how we're funding police technology and make sure that it's coming from the right source and the SLEF fund is being used appropriately and the general fund is being used appropriately. So those are the items staff has identified for next year's budget. Seeking council's feedback once we get through Director Malberg's presentation this evening about those goals, and then hearing about any other items the council would like us to look at as we prepare the draft budget. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jim.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So some of the things that we need to keep in mind for budget considerations are our current fiscal year general fund. If you recall from mid-year, we did a mid-year budget amendment, but we are still structurally balanced in the current fiscal year. However, our estimated ending fund balance for this year is around a little over 200,000, which is 300,000 below our typical budget target of 500,000. As far as our reserve fund balances, our contingency we do have a $2.5 million balance in there, but it's below our target, which is 15% of our general fund expenses. And the emergency reserve has 1.6 million, but also below the target. So a couple of things that we're tracking for potential one-time revenue increases, but we have not really included into our budget plan, or are not recommending that we include it in at the beginning, is the storm damages still under review by FEMA and Cal OES. That could be up to about $950,000, $960,000 if approved. Storm damage insurance claims, I think, can go up close to $800,000 if all of our claims were approved. But again, they're still in a review process and have been for quite a while. Surplus land sale is something that could come up in this next fiscal year. We have to go through a process to get there. There's the potential of some big projects moving forward that would give us an increase, kind of a one-time increase in building permit fees. And then we have some substantial amount of delinquent TOT that we're working on a repayment plan. So once that gets going, if all of those things or any of those things start coming into play, we would come back at mid-year and fold those into the budget at that point. So tonight, our recommended council action is to identify the goals and related key projects for fiscal year 26-27. Staff is proposing that any unallocated general fund money be split 50% between fund balance and reserves. We listed both in the staff report. That's kind of the same thing. And then the other 50% to projects. For our budget review process, our draft budget will be published on Friday, April 17th. We will have the initial fact budget review a couple weeks after that, May 5th, followed by the next evening with the City Council for our first budget hearing. And then we also have follow-up budget hearings on the 21st, as well as June 3rd and 18th if needed, for budget adoption on Thursday, June 25th. And that is my last slide, sorry. Waiting for that to happen.
Great, thank you.
And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Let's stick with questions. I'm sure there's a lot of comments, so we'll go with questions first. Mr. Clark?
The first question is for Jim. Is there any way we could do a TOT study for short-term rentals to say if we allowed it citywide, what that would look like, instead of just certain small districts or zones that are allowed to do short-term rentals right now?
Yeah, I'm sure there's some way we could figure out, like, what if we expanded the zone, what percentage on average, but it'd have to be second home. Yeah, there's probably a way to figure out something or
I think that would be the easy math would be good for the city. But I would like to see us look into that.
Okay.
And then the second question I had is about when we're talking about the climate action plan and the storm surge and flooding and all the problems that we have had. There's a huge El Nino out there, and they're already forecasting tons of rain, big storm events, big waves. So if we think we really need to bolster our climate action plan and flood mitigation. So I don't know how we can look at that, but I think it's something we need to start thinking long term as there's the sea rise. That's all I have.
I think along the same lines as Councilmember Clark, I think, we've got the Esplanade Park project that we're moving forward with, which is really also a coastal resiliency, sea level rise, and adaptation project. I'd like to see the city explore how we can reliably tap into a backup power source to ensure that our pump stations work during storms and possible flooding. And whether we're able to use these funds to get bigger and better pumps. That's another question. And then the question about how much it costs to do a nexus study if we want to update our inclusionary housing ordinance.
So I'm going to look at Director Hurley here. I think we just went through this. Wasn't it about $30K to do that? And in general, the Nexus studies, I think we have used housing funds. Is that?
So it wouldn't come from general fund.
Yeah.
Got it. So this wouldn't be a goal?
No, there would be goals, but
Okay.
they just wouldn't have general fund impact. There's a fair number of projects on there that don't necessarily have, Councilmember Clark's request for what would an estimate of TOT revenue be that doesn't have any cost for us to do. We'd come back with a number, so.
Got it. Okay. That's all my questions. Thanks.
Ms. Westman, questions?
I'm going to give comments.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, just regarding process, I went through like what some goals are and stuff. So this are just questions, and then we'll come back in deliberation and talk about how our personal goals will line into what the things are. Okay, so I have no other well, my question would be, or maybe more of a comment. I appreciate that we use the strategic plan as a driving focus. One thing I've talked to our city manager about, something about being very much connected back to our community about, I look at future activity that we might need, more tax money and stuff like that. But if there's a way that we could evaluate what the promise we made to our community was regarding Measure Y, and so using that as a check and balance for us all, that we look at, we meet our strategic goal, but also how it met our intention in Measure Y. So when we talked about if we allocate money for paving, we could say, well, that was a goal that or commitment that we made to our community about Measure Y and how we achieve it. And so part of it, just as saying, some establishing some transparency there, or some direct accountability, that how we use that tax measure money that came in, that we checked the box on what we committed that we were going to do as in our ballot measure. So maybe that's just we can work that into the process. And I don't have anything else at this time.
I had a question. It might be for Jessica, but sorry. I remember there was some funding or grants associated with hazard mitigation that we went for. I think it must have been after the 2023 storms. Is that something that's like ongoing that we could potentially look at, or does something have to occur? I might not be asking that right, but I think when we were talking about the bluffs over after the last storm, maybe my memory is not right.
So there are periodic grant opportunities for hazard mitigation funds from FEMA, or at least they have been in the past. They're typically after large storms anywhere in the state.
Yeah.
I will say you just adopted the hazard mitigation plan and our annex for the city on the consent calendar this evening, which reopens us up for eligibility for those kind of grants.
Those are through FEMA, so it's not a separate grant process.
No.
Okay, cool. I was confused. Thank you. Sorry to make you come up here. All right, that was my only question. Let's go to public comment. I see none. We'll come back to council. So here we can.
So are we going to do them in two parts? It sort of seems like we have the, key milestones for the departments, and then we have a list that are going to be our, what are our priorities for goals for the following year? Do we want to do them separately or together?
Write down the list and do one at a time. If anybody has anything to say about it, they can just.
Okay.
Sound good?
Do we have? Oh, you're going to do it freehand?
Well, that's a question. I can certainly take over there if you'd like and give it a shot.
So we're going to do goals first.
So
I think it's up to the mayor how best you'd like to best proceed.
It seems like we might want to do the department one.
That's
going to be simpler.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
So I can start with the department ones because okay. For the city manager's department, I thought they were good. I do think we need to, look at community engagement, which may be something that we need a little funding for to make certain that happens, whether they're town hall meetings or other ways of doing community engagement. For the police, I would like to see some sort of, parking revenue study or issues looking at whether or not it's time to raise some of our parking revenues. And I would like to see something listed for electric bikes. I appreciate the great program that was worked out with the school district and the police chief for kids, but I do think that the electric bike issue is more than just kids. There are a lot of adults out there not setting very good examples. On the community services and recreation, we have a great new community center, and it seems like a lot of opportunities, and we've just sort of listed generically explore and develop new opportunities related to renovative facility. And I would like to see there be sort of a financial component to that. Is it going to be possible for us to have some programs new programs in that facility that pay for themselves rather than having the city just subsidize them. And I would also like to make certain that, we have sort of a balance of programs for youth and for seniors. Being on the Senior Advisory Council, we constantly hear how important it is to have programs and activities for seniors to engage as well as youth. And I would like to see us take a look at that. And for those are probably my main ones on the goals for the departments.
Great. Vice Mayor?
Perfect. So with PD, I guess one of the goals is the implementation of the new radio system. And I know it's probably not one you have directly control over, but maybe some influence. I was disappointed to hear that the local fire department, Central Fire Department, is not going to be a part of the radio system. And so, I think one of the things, not that I was change my vote, but to have our next biggest partner that's in our city not on the radio system. I think that was our whole drive was that. So if you could just reach out and encourage them and whatever we need to do to encourage them and bring them along, I think it'd be great for our community. Another goal I had was that I hope to see is more speed enforcement to enhance maybe some better rules and maybe better behaviors from all of us. And then just also look at how we can, I think the data will tell us at the end of this year on how we did with our parking, with our new attendance and everything like that. But, is there any streamlining that we need to do? I think also to look at, I know we have increased our fees for parking citation, but when was the last time we did a study on what the parking fees would be? And maybe we look at that and how we can generate more funding back to the city. I don't know, how long has that been, that study was done?
I believe we did it 4 years ago. It was
2022, 2023, because it was when Steve retired.
I think just a study to look at, are we in line with other jurisdictions? From the Economic Development Economic Development Department, I just a goal would be, to continue our outreach to other partners that might want to come into our community. I know we established a little bit of money, $20,000, but I think a report back to us on what does that really look like? Do we need to look long range on having a full-time person or maybe a part-time person? The $20,000 I think was a teaser on what it could do, but as a goal to look at a study on how that department could grow and what could be the potential benefits of that coming back around. The other one I've always been interested in is the rent control that we had at the Cabrillo Mobile Home Estates. I know the way that's written, I have concerns about ongoing legal expenses that the city could incur and stuff like that. And then an update on kind of where we are with rent control overall at the mobile home parks. With that one specifically, I think we're going through a hearing right now or something like that, but is there any potential issues or understanding of where we are with that from potential liability going forward? So to have that as a goal to look at that and study. We already talked about impact fees. Let's see, the rec department, just what Councilmember Westman said, a better opportunity of generating more revenue with that new facility, the kitchen, everything. Under business services, I was hoping that, is there a way, a goal would be to have a better understanding, and it's probably more of a joke for Jim, but on how we anticipate this huge influx on PERS, our ULA and everything, and how does that look? Is there something that is there a goal that we can set? I was looking at is there mean, I know there's probably a joint meeting between, all the financial people in different cities, but it seems like it's so influx and it causes such havoc on our budget yearly and stuff like that. Is there a better way for us to anticipate that or work through a process? And I don't know, it's just very concerning is that if we just look at where we have been in the city, half the issues that we have right now is that huge number that we didn't anticipate, which just causes concern. Bringing in the TOT tax or in-house, would you think, would you think that's going to be able to have us better accountability for tracking so we don't have delinquencies that we have seen?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, the big one that we had kind of started with HDL, and then there was like a time lapse in between when they weren't able to do anything. So yeah, it would.
Perfect. Okay, and then just a couple more. Under Public Works, it looks like one of their goals would be to have a CIP list for the city. Would that be implemented this year, or is that a multi-year project?
We are working on that right now. I mean, we'll have a CIP budget presented at the second budget hearing. I don't know if we'll have the full, all the pictures and all of that, but we are working that direction.
I always think it's just important to be able to tell, long-term for our community, how much our needs really are for future measures that we might have to go out. So if that's working on, that's great. And then one thing I was hoping for on our payment management plan that we implement every year, is there a way that we could include a couple community members into that so to help us get the messaging out and that we understand the reason what our methodology is around how we do that, other than I think it comes through pretty quick onto council and we're just approving a list without some feedback or maybe hearing some concerns. And sometimes I think there's some lobbying around that list, which it'd be great to have some community members involved so there's some transparency to that process. And the last one I had was maybe just one thing for the Public Works Department. They do so many amazing things, but I think just some fun facts that would come out on a Friday, did you know we cut, 50 acres of grass or, and to tell, do you know, approximately how much trash we put out? And I say that jokingly, but I mean, those are the kind of things that stick in our mind that tell the great story that the Public Works Department is doing. I think that would be something that would be a goal that we should see if we can implement that. And that's all I had from department goals, things that I'd like to share.
Great, thank you. Ms. Orbach?
I have nothing to add.
You were very thorough. Councilmember Clark?
Yeah, great. I'll start from the top and work my way down. First one I come to is the Bay Avenue corridor improvements. I would love to see better lighting put in. I know we're not talking about the roundabout yet, but ahead of that we, the issues with the lighting is still out there. If we could work on that, so I'd like to see that in the design development. I'll go down to the climate action plan update. Again, just to talk about all of the issues that potentially are coming our way. Again, we need to really be ready for some of the things coming. And then lastly, to administrative services, the TOT, I think it's a great idea that we bring it in internally so we don't have those issues. And then, of course, if we can do the study to even have a larger TOT tax, I think that'd be great. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I am on board definitely with what staff has put forth for sure, along with my fellow council members. I think too in this era of communication and transparency, we do get to hear from our city manager, but sort of as Vice Mayor Jensen was pointing out, maybe we should be getting tidbits from all departments, what's happening in recreation, what new classes are offered, even if it's just a slight update that we can pass along to our constituents and help spread the word of your department and the fun things that are happening or how much mulch we're making, even though we already got a presentation on that. But yeah, I think that's a good idea to sort of personalize things a little bit and make things a little less sterile, let people feel like they're involved with all of our processes across the city. All right, so I think there's a want of personal, yeah.
For me, for goals, I actually listed 10 of them, so I'll go through them pretty quickly. My first goal is I think we need to do an evaluation of the Capitola trestle. And I say that because I think there's going to be a potential that the, Stockton Avenue Bridge may have some issues. We've got a Cliff Drive resiliency project, which again could have an impact on traffic coming into town. And it seems like, the RTC's going forward with coming up a plan where they're actually going to be able to complete a trail, that's coming through, and it would be nice to see that connect up. My number 2 one is Bay Avenue, and I agree with Councilmember Clark. I think that lighting is a very important safety improvement that needs to take place at Hill and Bay, as well as Bay and Capitola Avenue. And I also would like to see us go forward with doing the crosswalk at Center Street that we talked about doing before for the seniors project. My number 3 is Capitola Village and sea level rise protection. I don't know exactly how that's going to take a form, but sea level rise seems to be here. Bigger weather storms are here. And while we may not be able to save, Capitola Village for 100 years, I think most people want to keep it around as long as we possibly can. And so we need to look at, what infrastructure improvements we need to do there to have it function and try and protect it as much as we can. Number 4 is Cliff Drive, because it's obviously continuing to erode, and I think keeping two-way traffic on that street is just going to be critical for our community. Number 5 is, sounds like we're going to get a new CIP plan because, maintaining our city streets and city infrastructure seems to be critical. My number 6 is I would like to see us look more at some sidewalk programs. We applied for some funding to do sidewalk infills, but if you look at the numbers, the way most people get around besides cars is walking. And so we need to make it safe and easy for people to walk around and get to our community. I would like us to look into, the bicycle detection program and see if that would work for us and be able to something to increase bicycle safety. Number 8, I put as the Stockton Avenue Bridge, mainly because that's really going to be a decision that's based on information that we have yet to receive. And I would like to see us work on cleaning up Capitola Village and some of the areas of, sort of disrepair, garbage cans and that kind of thing, as well as, go forward with our Esplanade Park project, which, as Councilmember Orbach said, fills some of the gates. It will provide some resiliency there. And number 10 is, a program to work with volunteers and community groups to help us fund some of the amenities and things that we want to have in Capitola, because my guess is that funding is going to continue to be tight. Where we could go through a big upheaval if we actually have a mall that's being rebuilt, and we're going to have to be creative and look at ways to get some amenities for the community that we want to have. And I don't know if this is the time, because we sort of set it out, but are we going to talk about whether or not we want to put the funding that's left over this year into the reserve accounts and projects? Or are we going to do that after this section? I can do it now or after.
You mean the staff recommendation to put half of the money away? I agree with the staff recommendation to put half the money away.
Well, I probably will ultimately agree with putting half the money away, but I don't think this is the time to make that decision till we actually get a little further down in the budget process and we see where we are on revenues and budgets. I think to make that decision tonight would be a bit premature.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor?
Before you get going, Councilmember Westman, your first one, unfortunately, I missed a key word right at the beginning.
Evaluate?
Maybe a few more words.
Evaluate the Capitola trestle to see if it's going to be usable at all.
I missed the word trestle.
Thank you. My number one was in line with Councilmember Westman's with the Capitola Trestle, knowing what the impact that could have or the possibility of relieving some impact, trying to learn from some of the mistakes that they made at the Murray Street Bridge. So Capitola Trestle, my number one. Number two was kind of two together in the sense of the Cliffside, the Cliff Resiliency Project and the Stockton Bridge at the same time, because we don't really know where the Stockton Bridge is right now. And so I was looking at putting those both together jointly. My number three was in what Councilmember Clark said regarding some additional lighting on Bay Avenue at the two intersections that have been discussed, but also a goal in providing some funding for some tree maintenance work around some of the existing lights that we have in place that are being obstructed by tree trimming. And I know there's not an allocation of money for that, but to just relieve the foliage around those lights, I think could help, which would not be, I don't think, a huge cost impact, but maybe a very big return for a little bit of money. Number four was the Esplanade Park Coastal Resiliency and Flooding of the Village. My number five was to make sure we support the pavement management plan that I have in place. Number six, that kind of connects with that at the same time, is the sidewalk infill project. And I was just trying to point out also with, I think the numbers are 65% of our community are seniors walking, but also ADA with walkers, wheelchair access and stuff like that with the sidewalk projects important. My number seven was to have some resolution on what's going to happen up on Grand Avenue on Depot Hill. Number eight was that we do have a group of community members doing some fundraising for the RISPN, and there's been a request for them seeing some matching grant funds to look at potentially if the money can be put aside to identify and to enhance what their donations will be to bring a project to, let's say, to complete the vision. My number 9 was in line with what Councilmember Westman was saying about down in the Capitola Village, small enhancement, just like replacing the garbage cans and just trying to clean up the village. But looking at those numbers, I think when city manager and I looked and we had counts, I mean, that number's like somewhere north of $50,000 just for garbage cans. So it's a large number, but maybe there's a way that we can look at that. And then my number 10 was being sensitive and to where we are in the next month or so, seeing the Capitola Wharf project come together. Hopefully we're able to be successful on that RFP and we have a partner come in, but there might be some dollar amounts that we might need to fund towards, lifeguard station or something that might not be included in that. And so making sure that we've identified that as like a public safety issue on that there might be a need for that. Those are what I kind of put it down to 10. So those were what my top 10 were. It's like a lot.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Clark?
I can give my Tonight Show top 10 list. Actually, the top one is the trestle study. Number 2 was the climate action plan and flood mitigation. The other 8 kind of go in between Councilmember Westman's and Councilmember Jensen's, but they're all pretty much in alignment in the top 10, not to be redundant.
I didn't know we were counting down our top 10, so I was kind of writing it down as we were going through it all. So thanks for sharing. I think my priorities maybe are a little bit different. I really want to see us develop impact fees before a project gets submitted. So that is with the 41st Ave corridor study and Clare Street, and really recognizing what infrastructure we need to support our community, and having and knowing and doing the nexus study to determine that it will be impacts, and having the developer pay into the impact fees when they submit a project. I expressed this already, that I believe 41st Ave and Claire's Ave, that intersection is really problematic, and I really want to make it a priority to improve pedestrian bike safety in that intersection. I want to see prioritization of infrastructure all along Claire's, making it a complete street with bike lanes. Unfortunately, right now there aren't any, and oftentimes we're riding on the sidewalk, which is not very safe. I'd like to also see improvement in bike facilities along 38th Avenue, connecting what will be the mall redevelopment to the Coastal Rail Trail when that gets developed through the RTC. I think that makes a really it'll be a logical place to put it, because 41st would not be a good place. Let's see. I'd like to see us continue to move forward with the Stockton Bridge replacement project. I know there has been delays already with the inspection study, and we have used some funds for that kind of deviation of the original plan, but I'd like to see us continue to move forward. Climate action plan, Esplanade Park, I've talked about that already, improving our pump station and exploring backup energy source. And I'd love to see us move forward and continue to plan for the roundabout at Bay and Hill. Yeah, that's it.
Great. Thank you, Council. That was very thorough and all very important. I don't have much to add. In looking at the Bay Avenue corridor, I've been a huge proponent of a crosswalk at Center. I would also appreciate a look at one closer down towards like Rosedale Avenue. There's a long stretch where school traffic gets congested. The four-way stop at Monterey doesn't always work for people coming all the way up from Gales. The village, yes, Esplanade Park, that's definitely been something that we've discussed. And I think it could be a nice way to enhance the village, but also create some protection if possible. I'm also wondering about the sidewalks. There have been some issues, which I think bring up some safety concerns of mine within just your normal wear and tear down there. I know I've sent Jessica pictures and stuff, so I will continue to do that, but maybe just a little overview of that, because I think it can become a liability standpoint. That along with, I don't know what the cost is of, or how often we do the actual like pressure washing of the sidewalks.
Our pressure washing guru happens to be sitting right here, believe it or not.
Oh.
We do 10 sidewalk washings during the summer, and they are about $3,000 each. So it's twice a month. Well, it's not twice a month now because they rotate through. So they're in there every week, rotating through, doing like half the village one week and half the village the next.
Just during the summer?
Just from April until October, yes.
Okay. I mean, if it could be looked at to possibly maybe sprinkle some in on these 80-degree March days, that would, I think, behoove us. But But yeah, I'm in support of everything that has been brought up, and I'm just wondering how.
Can I comment on, one of the things that always confuses me, and I think it might be nice if we could get it cleared up, is who's responsible for repairing sidewalks, whether it's in a residential area or whether it's in, a commercial area. The city seems to have done it a number of different ways. When I lived on Bay Avenue, we got sidewalks there because we did an assessment district, which was a real improvement along there. I mean, there are lots of different ways of financing sidewalks. So maybe at some point we could talk about, how we want to do that, because I do think sidewalks and pedestrian safety, goes a long way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we have a lot of goals.
There's a lot.
Uh,
A lot of goals.
Yeah.
There's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of goals. I'm not sure that I have this in a form that's very digestible at this point. I took down everything everyone said. I think probably the thing for us to do is to go out now, do some work, find where the crossover is. For example, I think a number of projects were, when we had showed the CIP projects, the intent was to continue doing them. So for example, Esplanade Park, obviously there was a lot of support to continue that sort of work, as well as Stockton Bridge, Cliff Drive, those really important things. So I think we can look for where there's already the crossover, where there's already sort of in the plan. I heard better lighting on Bay, I think, from a lot of folks, and clearly looking for more sea level rise climate action planning around the village. And then I think some of the projects are kind of, as I mentioned before, just work, staff time items, and some of them will be general fund costs. Councilmember Jensen and I have talked about how expensive trash cans are. So we'll try to come back and hang numbers around some of these things for the budget and identify what we think is available surplus. And then we can have the conversation that Councilmember Orbach and Councilmember Westman were starting to have, is how much of these projects do we want to do and how much should we be setting aside for a rainy day, even when it feels like spring, all winter.
So when we look at these projects and these lists, is it possible to sort of give us some indication about, how much money we're spending across the community? So we're making certain that we're taking care of our entire town, not just one small piece of it, or, I know there will be some deviations there. Like right now, we're going to spend a whole bunch of money on 41st Avenue because we have a street project there. But, just when you do your analysis, sort of talk about funding for areas.
We can try. I mean, I don't think that that's necessarily a super easy task. We can identify the location of kind of all the active CIP projects. Obviously there's a big difference between the Cliff Drive project, right? The Community Center project, those are $10 million projects, and, maybe a sidewalk infill project on Washburn or something at 100,000. So
I'm really just thinking about, our general fund money and how we allocate the money that we have control over, not money that we're going to get grants to do, but just so we're being fair.
Yeah, we can try to think about some way to help present that info.
Thank you.
In a follow-up to the recommendation, I agree with Councilmember Westman on hold on that until we get some more in-depth information. I think what would be very helpful is to have maybe a little history lesson and tell us what has been done to get us below what our reserves are, and so where have we spent the money that and the reason why. So it's very rewarding when we see like before the last council with Dr. Bridge, they allocated $350,000 of general fund money. Was that allocation done? And then that is one of the actions where that kicked down, that's why we're in the reserves. And I don't know the answer to that question, but a little education about that would help me make a decision on what we're doing and why we're in the position that we're in. And I know that's probably very easy for you to go, but I think just a little review of that for council would be very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. We can incorporate that into the budget presentation for sure.
I'd agree with that too.
Great. So we have a good direction here to.
We do. I mean, I think we have perfect council. I don't think anyone at this point. We're not cutting anything at this point. We're going to try to hang dollar figures, workload around items, and I took down the items that I heard in the first round and the items that I heard in the second round, and they're sort of all going to get folded into sort of one set of goals. And I think then we'll take a look and see what looks feasible and whether there's things that push us over the top in terms of workload, and the council can then make decisions about prioritization.
Okay, great. So are we taking a vote on this? I don't think so. Okay. All right. Great. So let's jump back to our consent item 8E, Capitola Mall and Objective Standard Zoning Code amendments. This was pulled by Vice Mayor Jensen.
Yeah, just a comment that I just wanted to make, that I've been reached out to quite a bit lately regarding the local unions, and I was wondering if there's a way, not as a direct connection, but there's a way we can go back to Marlon Geyer and encourage them again to focus on, local workforce and stuff like that, to have them reach out and be a little more proactive in maybe creating some kind of partnership and understand the needs of how important that is to our community to have local workers working on that project in the future. And I don't know, I know that comment was made, but I just want to make sure that we highlight that again. And if we could, follow up with them as an encouragement of council to make sure we're supporting local workers for that project. And sorry I had to pull the item for that, but I decided it'd be very important to connect that back somehow to the project, not as a condition, but just reiterate again.
Yes, we can definitely do that. The city manager and I are meeting with Marlon Geyer in a couple of weeks, and that's something we can bring up during that conversation.
All right, and yeah, so all local unions, I think, might be just the best way to handle that across the board. And also just outside unions, local employment for opportunities would be strongly encouraged.
I can get behind that. Yes. With an emphasis on local.
With an emphasis on having local employees work at the mall.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. All right, and now we'll jump back to our last item of the evening, number 10, adjournment. Take care of yourself and others. Thank you all for being here this evening.
As my daughter would say, goals. She always loved that. She always says, that's goals.